The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome everyone to the PowerGP Online Items That You May Not Know About webinar. My name is Brandon Cook and I'll be doing just a few housekeeping notes before I turn it over to Melissa here. First off, we are using GoToWebinar today and the session is going to be recorded. If you want to go back and rewatch the session, it will be available under the Resources tab on Ingevity.com. That should be available later in the day. If you have any questions during the webinar, just feel free to drop those into the questions panel on the right side of your screen. We'll be answering questions at the end of the webinar today, so sit tight and we'll make sure we get to those questions at the very end. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out the resources page on Ingevity.com for all of our upcoming webinars and presentations. This is our first webinar of the year, so we're really excited to get things going, and we have a lot of exciting stuff planned for this year. And with that, I will turn it over to our presenter for today, Melissa Dobkins.
Hey everybody, I'm certainly glad you could join us today. So my goal today is just to kind of go through things that are included in PowerGP Online, one that you may know about and just not really sure what it is, or two, my goal is hopefully you don't know about it and that you can take something away from today's webinar and put it into practice. So that's kind of my goal. I'm not going to go super deep on any of them just because some of them can get we could go super technical if we want to, but we're going to keep this on a little bit higher level just to give everybody an overview. As Brandon mentioned, feel free to drop questions in there. If I notice any of them and they happen to pertain to what we're looking at, then I will go ahead and answer them, but I'm not super observant to this little tiny taskbar on the right, but I will try my best to keep an eye on it. So first thing I want to kind of take a look at a little bit is what really is different about PowerGP Online. I know I've got some users on here. I've got some partners on the call. I think I've also got some customers who haven't actually moved to PowerGP Online yet, but we're going to get you there, don't you worry. But we've bundled a lot of things together with PowerGP Online. At its core, what everybody needs to remember is it's GP. Right? It's still doing all the great, wonderful things GP can do. It's the same solid product that Microsoft has been putting out. So none of that is different. But what is different is all of the things that we've done around the product. And that's really where you're going to see some of those benefits. We've got lots of things, like we've created an import tool right inside of the software. So if you've seen that, I'm going to take a look at that later on just so everybody can kind of have an understanding in terms of using it. How do I correct issues? How do I know there are issues with data? Things like that. The other really cool thing, PowerGP Mobile. So anybody who's got an iPad and wants to interact with GP from that iPad, it's much more of a dashboard-like experience. It's not something where I'm going to enter journal entries on. We haven't gotten to the level of that. We haven't really decided if that's where we want to go, but we may. But right now it's much more of a dashboard-like effect. You can certainly get into seeing details of things. You can see details on the sales side, on the inventory side, purchasing, and you've also, of course, got capabilities to lock down people's access, right? So one of the items that we have in our PowerGP mobile app is a lot of information in terms of checkbooks and banking. You can remove people's access to that because maybe you don't want everybody to actually see what's happening in the checkbook. But also a really great one. One of the other things we've done, community is a big issue for us. It's a big push we make. We really try to make sure all of our customers are involved in the GP community. So part of your PowerGP Online subscription also gets you a GPUG membership, which is it's a pretty significant option to have bundled into that user because it can be pricey when you're paying for that outside. But we've gone ahead and bundled that. So for anybody who's on here that is a PowerGP Online user or even a partner, if you've got users and they have not been contacted yet by dynamic communities to get involved in GPUG, please let me know. We all want to make sure we're sending them users every month. They're supposed to be reaching out. So just in case that hasn't happened, make sure and let me know. On top of that, we've also bundled a lot of ISVs, and I'm going to talk about a couple of those in a bit, but we've really tried to bundle the ones that make that experience exceptional. We want to make sure that navigating the system, getting data in and out of the system, and really being able to use the functionality in GP to its fullest extent is there. So we've bundled some ISVs, another great option for people because you're not paying for these additional add-ons. We've done some huge improvements around security. We've seen some issues in the GP community in terms of security issues. So we've made a huge investment in that, including multi-factor authentication with single sign-on. Big deal to make sure that people's things don't get hacked. So lots of things that we've added. We've of course, this is just a high level, just to talk about them a little bit, but lots of things that we've bundled together to make sure that your experience is the best it can be. So one of the other things, just to give everybody high level, is we do have multiple versions, or they're not versions, multiple editions. And within each one, what we want to keep in mind is you always want to make sure that all of the things that we've done around PowerGP Online are supported with whatever version you may or may not want to be going to. So we've got 5 different versions. We've got basic and standard, and when you're looking at basic and standard, you'll notice they do have bundled ISVs, right? They've got Jet. Basic has Jet Basics, which is the free version. Standard has Jet Reports, which is the actual paid version. So it's the higher level one. But everybody gets Rocked and SmartFill. So if you haven't been using Rocked and SmartFill, you would certainly want to take a look at that, because for me personally, it's my favorite add-on for GP ever. Everybody gets that GPUG membership, and you'll notice that's in every one of them, along with Rocked and SmartFill. Everybody gets that GPUG membership, including Premium and Premium Plus. Now, those are the editions that do include desktop. So if you have got something that might need a specific ISV that gets added, and you need desktop access to be using GP, that's when you're going to go to Premium Plus. Oh, whoops, went the wrong way. Sorry about that, guys.
It looks like you can see your the other side of the notes and some of the next line.
Okay, I got to switch screens. Hang on. Let's see. Screen. Nope. I don't know how to move this. All right, let's switch them. Hang on just a second, guys, while I do my techie stuff. Let's see what happens on this one. Yeah, for some reason, it won't switch screens on me. Oh, here we go. Swap. How's that? Better?
Much better, yep.
All right, so I'm going to skip to the one I was on. There we go. Yeah, because you probably, I mean, not that I've got like, tons of stuff on there, but you don't need to see my notes probably. All right, so back to our different editions. Thank you, Brandon, for that. So BYOL, one thing I want you to notice, if you'll notice, you can get Jet Basics and you can get other ISV solutions. Of course, they're going to have an additional charge since they're not bundled. But if you notice, there's nothing in terms of any of our bundled ISVs. So the reason for that is because you're bringing your own license, we can't bundle into that user subscription price those other ISV products that we've bundled in these other versions. So in order to add the SmartFill, Smart List Builder, CCA, that kind of thing, you will have to pay extra for those. But again, everybody gets any other additions. You get SmartFill, you get the GPUG membership. You also get credit card processing. So we have bundled in the software in terms of purchasing, in terms of using credit card authorizations through GP. There is a way right inside of GP for you to go through the entire credit application, and then we will automatically do all of the setup. Once that's approved, we do all of the setup behind the scenes through our API to get everything set up and ready for you to start using. So literally all your customer or any of you users would have to do, go through the credit app using First Data, which is the merchant that Notice uses. And within probably a couple days, once they get the credit app processed, you'll be able to process credit cards through Great Plains without purchasing any additional software. So again, that's a pretty big jump. We've also built in Smart List Builder and E1's Extender. So of course, anybody who's been in the GP community, we all know how much we love E1. We've also bundled theirs into the Premium and Premium Plus options. So depending on what version you're on or what version you think you might need to go to, we can certainly help you through that if you're still deciding. But if you're already on one of these editions, then you can get a little bit of an idea as to what's included or what's not. So just wanted to be sure everybody is aware of that. The other difference between Premium and Premium Plus that you'll notice down here is adding other ISV solutions. So if, for instance, you want to do something like a sales pad, which won't work in a web-only environment, right now we would put you into a premium option in order to make sure that you can use that functionality as well. So we don't want to limit those users in the GP community. We want to make sure that you can actually still keep any of those ISVs that you typically want to use. Or if you're kind of on the lower end where you're not using a lot of ISVs, you know, basic or standard might be a great option for you. Could save you a significant amount of money. All right, let me get my mouse back so I can switch slides again. There we go. So the next option, one of the things I want to talk about is we do have an additional HR payroll suite. And what we've done is it doesn't only include the Dynamics GP modules. Part of this is we've also bundled in some ISVs for you. We have bundled in some Integrity data products. So those of you that aren't familiar with Integrity, they're probably the largest payroll vendor outside of GreenShades, of course, but theirs are actually making changes inside of GP. So we've included a whole lot of those products as well. We've also included some of the GreenShades portal and tax compliance modules as well. And those are, again, bundled in. These are on a per employee price, but we do bundle all of this together to really get you that full payroll suite, including the self-service type portal that your customers are going to want. So some really nice stuff, especially for those who are heavy payroll users to kind of bring this all into one place. So certainly something to start taking a look at. The next one I want to talk a little bit more about is our PowerGP import. And I'm going to show this to you as well, this one will probably be the one we spend the most time on, but just to give you a little background, one of the big things that we wanted to overcome when we were releasing the web client only edition is how do I get data into the system? So because we wanted to make sure to address that, we've not only created these additional ones, we're actually adding some on an ongoing basis. So these right now are all of the imports that we have already built. A couple things to note on our imports. There is no mapping required. So that's got some good and bad sides, right? One good side is I don't have to worry about it. Doesn't matter what the file looks like for the most part, as long as I have the right headers and the right data in them. On the other part is if you've got some obscure things you might want to import, makes it a little bit harder. However, any feedback from people who are already using these, any feedback you want to give in terms of, gosh, I wish on the customer side we could import EFT banking information. That's a big one we've been asked for. It's actually one we're working on, so that'll be coming soon too. But you know, anything that you might see, like on the vendor side, if we're not bringing in a field on the vendor master that you might want brought in, let us know. These are super easy for us to update. Honestly, the hardest part is us just getting it through testing with everybody being busy, but getting these imports pushed out is pretty easy for us. And the nice part is you're not paying for those. Those are things we're doing. We're adding it to the product and giving it to everybody. So any feedback would be great. Couple of things that aren't listed on here. We are just about to release both the fixed asset master records and the fixed asset books. So those are getting added as well. As I mentioned, we're going to be adding some EFT for vendors and customers so that we can support those safe pay type, or not safe pay, the ACH and EFT payments. So a lot of those will be going through to ensure that they get that you guys get support for those as well. But these are all the ones that are here right now. One thing to keep in mind with them is they're actually pretty easy to use. So, you know, while we're on this particular screen, I am going to, let me bring my screen back so you can kind of see mine. We're going to take a look at one. They work the same across any import. So, what I want to do is just take a look at a few of them. And for it, I'm just going to go to sales. And I'm going to import some customers. So there's a few ways I can get to it. I could go to the customer screen itself, and you're going to notice an import button. I can also get to it from a customer navigation list. There'll be an option. So if I come over here and I go to my customers, right within this navigation list, once it redisplays, you're going to notice over here, I've got customer import, so I can get to it from here as well. So a few different spots I can get to, which is okay. I'm going to go ahead and click open. When you come into the file, or into the screen, my apologies, there's on every one of the imports, there is a template option in the top right corner. That will download for you a sample file, an example of data that might be in that sample file, as well as a PDF. Now, the PDF for these right now are generic. We're actually going to make them specific to each import. So I've got some people on my team going through and saying, okay, I'm going to look at the customer and I want to talk about, you know, what goes into the fields and how things are grouped, you know, just to give you some more feed or some more information when you are importing those. So just so you know that those are there. I'm going to go ahead and choose my file. And this is just going to browse me out to wherever I happen to keep them. And I'm going to choose my customer file. And I do have all of these saved as CSV. It does note on here that we'll use TXT files. I think that works fine. Just depends on what you're comfortable with. I've always done it as a CSV file. I don't know why, just my preference. So one of the things that'll happen as it brings the data into this grid, it's doing some validation. So if you'll notice, I've got some different icons over here. I've got a green check mark, which just means, hey, every field that you've put in here is correct, so we're good. I've got a yellow warning sign, which just means, you know what, there's something wrong with this one. It'll import, but we're going to make some adjustments. And then the red one means, yeah, I can't import this one at all. There's something wrong with a key field or incorrect data, whatever it might be, that'll make me get to the point of I can't import this. Okay. What I can do, if you'll notice down the bottom, it gives you the very first error or warning it runs into, but I can click on see all messages to see everything. So on the first one with the warning, it's just letting me know the customer ID is too long, so it's going to truncate it. All right, well, that's fine. That's a typical thing that happens with imports. On the second one, it's just saying, hey, that one already exists. You're going to need to either remove that one, make it a different customer, or make sure you allow updates if you want this one to come in. So I'm going to go ahead and close out. You'll notice there's the allow updates button, which I can check, and then this one would go ahead and import it over whatever fields I have on here that have data in them would overwrite what's in Great Plains. But what I can also do, if we notice, this one was telling me it's too long. So if I come into the actual grid and I just delete a couple zeros off of it, go ahead and tab out. Now the warning went away, but I haven't revalidated anything yet. And I could simply click revalidate. It's going to come back and say, oh, that one's fine. This one's still not going to come in because I haven't done anything. I'm not going to allow updates. But the nice part is all I have to do is come in here. I could change the data right here, especially if it's something quick like that. Now, if I've got a lot of records that have the same thing wrong with them, I would probably go back to my file and fix it. Again, how you fix it, totally up to you. But the nice thing is I could do it right in here. The other important thing to know about our imports is the order in which your columns in the file is insignificant to us. What we're doing is we're actually looking for a specific column header. So if I had an extra column in here between contact name and address one called, I don't know, key contact or key support person or whatever I wanted to call it, that's just not going to import because I don't know where that header goes. So I can have additional information in here that's never going to come in just because our import doesn't know where it goes because it's looking for those column headers. So as long as they're spelled correctly, order is insignificant. So that's kind of one of the things to keep in mind. Okay. And again, all of these, if there are things that are in the customer master, vendor master addresses, whatever it might be that we've already got a, that we have an import for, we can make changes. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind. So again, just wanted to show you a couple different ways how you could get to it, and as to a little bit as to how it works. All right. So I'm going to come back. I start up my screen again, and let's switch screens. I don't know why it does that to me all the time. You'd think it would remember where I am. Come on, speed up. Okay. So we talked about import. The next thing I want to go to is on top of this, some additional integration capabilities that we have. So we've actually got one that we've written and then one that's an add-on. So PowerGP Connect, some of you may or may not have heard of this. It's actually, we wrote this specifically to have the ability to import or integrate with other web type applications. So things like, first of all, we've developed this as a RESTful JSON API. That's a super technical term for just the type of files and the code it uses behind the scenes. But this will allow us to create integrations to things like Expensify. Right. So I'm looking for a new expense reporting system. We've actually built an integration already to Expensify, but it uses our PowerGP Connect product. We have another customer who is using a AP workflow type product, and that vendor rewrote an integration to their PowerGP Online tenants using our Connect product. So again, they were able to do that interaction. This is the type of product you would use, or the type of application you would use when there's no human interaction. So if you've got, think of it in terms of Smart Connect, right? You could set up Smart Connect to consume files and import into GP, et cetera, and never touch it. That's great. This, keeping it, what happens with PowerGP Connect is it's not file-based. It's all activity-based. So that's why it's RESTful, right? It's waiting for something to happen to say, oh, this has triggered a transaction. You need to pull that into PowerGP Online now. So that's where the difference is. However, it's got some additional functionality that's kind of nice. This can also allow you to pull data out of GP as well. So this is another way to get some data out of PowerGP Online. I could get it directly into Excel. This also is what we use for our mobile, our Power BI and Power Apps type stuff. It's all using this Connect product behind the scenes. So lots of different ways you can use it, keeping in mind it is very much developer facing when you're writing an integration. When I'm pulling data, maybe I'm pulling it into Power Apps or Power BI or just right into Excel, not so much developer facing, but writing the integration would be. The other option you have is UN Smart Connect. Now, this is not bundled. This would require an additional purchase, but it gives you that level of interaction where you don't have to be a developer, right? It has an interface that's a little bit more familiar to people, creating those mappings and things like that. So you do have the ability to use Smart Connect, but there is an additional charge for that. It's a great option if you're doing file-based. So maybe I have an on-prem billing system, let's just say, that I want to bring in sales order processing invoices. We don't have an integration right now for to bring in sales order processing transactions. So if that's something you'd want to do, but you're getting a file for it, you're going to want to use something like Smart Connect. If you have a product that you're using for billing that we can link into an API with, then we would look at a PowerGP Connect type integration. And we can certainly help you figure out what those particular integrations might look like. All right, I'm going to jump ahead to the next one. Come on. Reporting options. So understanding what your reporting options are edition by edition is also important. If you'll notice, the ones that are on basic and standard are more limited. So as a reminder, basic and standard are web client only. That means things like Management Reporter don't work in that type environment. Microsoft just has not made it web available and don't plan to, so we don't really have the ability to use that. But you will notice every one of them has Power BI. The reason for that, Power BI, you can actually use that for free. So there's no cost to it, and certainly that would be a great tool for people to start looking into. So that's included with all of them. We do have Jet reports at some level with every one of them, so that's available too. Once you jump to premium and up, what that means is now you've got remote desktop, so you've got an enormous plethora of products you can actually use. I can use Management Reporter, I can use SRS, I can do all of the Jet products and BI360, all of those that are out there. Or if you've got some other reporting tool that you just love and you want to bring along, great, it can certainly be supported in those desktop type environments. So lots of different options, but a lot of it is just going to be dependent on what you're using, maybe what you're willing to transfer to, and what your requirements are. But just something I want everybody to keep in mind. The next thing we have is our, oh, that's not refreshing, there we go. The next thing we have, we've developed quite a few content packs for Power BI. Now they used to be up on an app source. However, Microsoft now requires that you pay for your subscription in order to download any of our content packs. So instead of making everybody pay for Power BI subscription, we can send these to you, and then you can publish them and share them with your organization. But we've pre-created a lot of these to get you started with Power BI. I think one of the hardest things to get going on is the fact that you're not really sure what you want to see, right? Because most of the stuff that you're looking at in a Power BI type environment is graphical. People just aren't used to seeing that. So definitely something that I think is a really good option for people to start looking into. A lot of people are really moving towards more graphical representations of their data as opposed to, lines and rows of data that they're just kind of sifting through. So certainly something to keep in mind, and we kind of give you a little head start. So that's always a good thing too. We had talked about jet reports. So what I wanted to let you know is just kind of some background. We have pre-built for you over 200 reports. So you get all of those. So you don't have to start from scratch on these. Now, some of them you might want to, I can't talk today. You might want to modify. Some of them sometimes you just may want to start from scratch, and that's okay too, but we've pre-built a lot of them. You can do both financial and subledger reporting. Doesn't have to be just financial reports or anything else. You can actually get to it from anywhere. We have also taken all of the GP refreshable Excel reports and we've rewritten those with Jet. So for those web client only editions, the basic and standard, the refreshable Excel reports don't work. They don't work over a web environment that way. However, the Jet reports do. So we've taken every one of those and rewritten them so that you don't lose that functionality. We make sure that you have it going forward. And those are also available to those on any of the desktop editions as well. So again, just kind of something to keep in mind. We've also, whoops, already did that one, there we go. We've also created a couple Power Apps. So we've created one for batch approval, one for credit limit updates. And these, you know, they're not easy to create. For one, but they're not hard. And what they do is they really give you some insight into what kinds of things can I create in order to work with my PowerGP Online environment. So the kind of cool thing is, if I just want somebody to approve batches, I don't need them to get into GP. And on top of that, with a web-only environment, I can't use the email workflow stuff that's in Great Plains. So instead, we create a Power App. And that way that person can log in and say, yep, I approve this batch. It'll show that batch approval app will also show all the transactions into it. It'll show you an enormous amount of detail in order for you to feel comfortable approving, and that approval gets sent back to GP, and then your users can go ahead and process. So really a nice way to have some of those small functions taken outside of the system so that you're not paying for users to log in to simply do one task. So it's a good way to kind of start thinking about how would I use Power Apps, because that's kind of a cool thing. Okay, one more thing to talk about is some of the other things that we've added, and some of these I may have already talked about. I'm going to come back to the first one in a second, but the batch reset utility. So for those of you who've ever supported, implemented, used Great Plains, has probably had a stuck batch at one time or another in your life. I'm sure you have. So we're all used to going to the batch recovery window, which works sometimes, but not others, depending on what's wrong with the batch. What our batch reset utility does is it basically will take those scripts that we as partners and people who are supporting the system would run in the back end in SQL. It'll run those for us. So I have a screen, I'm just going to say, you know, and it shows me any batches that are in a stuck status. I simply check mark it and say process, and it's going to run those scripts for me, and all of a sudden my batch is available again. So I don't need access to the SQL database to do it. I don't need to call a partner and you know, try to get them involved. I can simply fix it myself. So that's kind of nice. We have also, oh, whoops, wrong way, go back. I don't want you to see that one yet. Okay. We have also added the ability for budgets with MDA codes. So we had made the conscious decision, especially in the web-only versions, to not support analytical accounting. One, because it can get pretty insensitive in the database, and sometimes it'll get clunky. We've got users who started to implement and they're like, yeah, I don't want this is too much, and then removed it, and it just kind of gets ugly. But MDA is a great product for doing things like that. One of the fall downs that we saw was it doesn't have budgets. So we have actually written a product around that does allow you to bring in budgets for those MDA codes, the same way that analytical accounting would work. So that's a really nice option. Payables transaction entry window, we've added a pane to the right-hand side that shows you recent transactions for that particular vendor. So that's kind of a nice thing. Whoops, where did it go? Jeez. My mouse, there we go. Apparently my mouse just keeps take my hand away. Credit card processing, we've already talked about. That's built in. We've bundled in notice for you. But then we've got some usability and performance enhancements that we've done. And these are things that we've done because we typically have always done them for our customers. And not only that, we've done them internally for ourselves because we are also users of PowerGP. The first one is item descriptions to the first line of the grid for SOP and POP. So those who use sales order processing and purchase order processing, if you've ever looked at it, like the item description for everything is kind of hidden. So we've moved that to the top line, so it's right next to the item number. which just makes things a little bit easier. And we've done the same thing with account descriptions. They were always on the second line of a distribution window. So any of the distribution windows in the system, that account description is now next to the account number. Makes it way easier for people to make sure they're on the right account. The checkbook inquiry performance, we've actually just changed the way the screen refreshes. What would happen typically is if I selected the checkbook, that's immediately when the system would go out and start retrieving data, which is great, except when you have a checkbook that has a lot of transactions in it, that can really bog the system down. So what we've done is we've added, we basically put a pause on that, and you have to actually click refresh to get it to show. Because I might want to say, I'm going to select my checkbook, and then I want to select this date range, so that whatever is getting pulled in is a much smaller subset of data. So we've just simply changed at what time that screen actually refreshes, but huge improvements, a huge improvement for performance. And then on the inquiry windows, we automatically sort everything by date. Now, while this might not seem like a huge deal, typically when somebody's looking for something, they know the day it happened, maybe not necessarily a transaction number or something like that. So we've automatically had these all sorted by date. So again, some of the things that we've added to make things easier. But the one I really want to let you know about is our banking app. So we've been working on this for quite some time, and I feel like, and not only me, I think a lot of people in the community feel this way. It's really the big thing that Great Plains has been lacking for quite some time, and that is a banking integration. So if you're used to or if you've ever seen the way QuickBooks kind of links into your bank account and will download data, same thing that it will do with your credit card statements, we now have that for PowerGP Online. So I can link to your banking institution. It's going to download transactions and match them up if it can. If it can't, it's just going to ask you for the GL code it needs, and boom, away you go. It'll also do this with your credit card statements. It'll download those credit card statements and allow you to code the lines so that you're hitting the right GL accounts, and then it's going to automatically create that AP voucher for you. So a lot less data entry, and then you can pull those things down automatically. So I think this is going to be a huge hit, hopefully, as we get this released. But I think it's actually about to go in the next week or two. So we're at the end of coding, we're at the end of testing. We're just kind of getting all of our buttons wrapped up, and that one will be available as well. So really cool option for users there. All right, the last thing I want to let you know about is one of the other items we're adding, and this is getting finalized through testing and development. We're going to have our own homepage, or I shouldn't say homepage. We're going to have our own area page. So over on the navigation on the left, you're now going to see an option for PowerGP. And it's going to have all of the things that we've added in terms of any new functionality, new development we've done. So instead of going to financial cards and I want to import GL accounts, I can actually just go to transaction import. I can go over here to set up my credit card processing or my banking integration. So any of the stuff that we've added, we're now putting in one centralized location, because I think that's going to be a lot easier for people to find in order to make sure we've got any of our, oh my goodness, this thing is super sensitive. Okay, hand away. Things like our batch reset utility, right? That's going to be over on this side. So a lot of the things that we've added, instead of trying to figure out where we put them in the navigation within Great Plains, we're now just putting them all on one page. So this is going to be a little bit easier for you. Okay. Excuse me. So that comes to the end of my overview. I'm going to take a look and see if we've got any questions. Let me look at, I'm looking, come on. I can't see the whole question. Hang on just a second. It's not letting me scroll. I love the way that sometimes,
I can scroll for you if you want, Melissa.
Oh, actually, I can see it. Okay. Thank you, Brandon. It says, I'm looking to use the AR and AP transaction import. Does your import auto default the credit to the AP account? It does. So if you don't provide on the imports, if you don't provide the credit on that AP import, and I think it works the same way in the AR import. And if it doesn't, I'll get that fixed. It'll default based on your setup. So it'll either default back to the vendor setup, or it's going to default to the to your posting setup. So it does import whatever, it does default whatever you have set for your AP account on there. And Rex is very happy about that. Yay, me too, Rex. All right. Any other and is there other questions on here, Brandon, that I'm just not allowed to see?
Let me see. So I do a couple. One is, how can users create views to add views that could be used to add functionality, either through Smart List Builder or one Smart List Builder? I know that the only way is to have your SQL/support team create and expose the views. Is that still the same?
It is so yes, if you are in basic or standard, which is a web only environment, and you have a view that you want to get deployed into your into that particular customer, yes, send it to us and we will get that deployed. If you're on premium or above, you have access to that SQL backend and you can do that yourself. So we can so in the first two editions, the web only editions, we do need to have that work done internally. On the premium plus BYOL, from the customer perspective, either your partner will be able to do it or we will. We do restrict customer access to create things like that in SQL. So depending on who's doing it, it's either your partner or somebody on our support side.
All right, so is one more. It says, let's see, I'm looking to use the AR and AP transaction import. Does your import auto default?
That's the one I just answered.
Oh, my bad, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay, no worries. I didn't mark it as answered. All right, any other ones that are on there that you see, or are those the only two so far?
Those are the only ones, looks like.
All right, so if anybody else has a question, feel free to add it. And since Brandon can see them way better than I can, we'll let him read them to me. But if there are other questions, please feel free to go ahead and post those. If there's not, you know, for now we're done. I think I've gone through the things that I wanted to. You always have the ability to reach out to me directly. I think pretty much everybody on here has my email address. If not, feel free to just send it to either support@ingevity.com. You can send it to sales@ingevity.com. Doesn't really matter. And you can even address me in that. I get both of those emails, so I see them all the time. But if you've also got my email address, feel free to email me directly. Be happy to certainly help with any additional questions that you have or anything specific, even if you've got a specific or unique function or some functionality that you need to make sure comes over, we can absolutely have that conversation as well. All right, it doesn't look like there's any more questions, so I'm going to go ahead and let everybody go. I certainly appreciate you guys joining me today. Hopefully I didn't go too fast for. Oh, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
At the buzzer. Let's see here. So I can scroll to it real fast. So no need to do online. I tried to upload 2 files and they did not upload, causing us to lose a week or so time. Can you look into this?
Well, what were you trying to upload? Were you actually importing data? Who did this come from? From Rex?
Yes.
All right, Rex. Hey, Rex, shoot me an email, and we can figure out why those did not upload. Because that's probably something unique to. It could be something unique to that particular customer, those particular data files or whatever. But yeah, send me that. If you want to send that to me directly, I can certainly help you with that. All right. Well, then I will go ahead and let everybody drop off. Again, any questions, you can go ahead and reach out to me. And thanks again for attending. And hopefully everybody will enjoy the rest of their day. Thanks, everyone.